Hello, thank you for joining today's webinar. Today's webinar is a CyberSense update, latest news and information about all things CyberSense. My name is Jim McGann. I will be presenting today. If you do have questions, either during or following the session, you could send the questions into the chat area. We'll try to take them during the session. I know we're trying to keep this to 30 minutes, so probably not much time. Or you can send emails to info@Index Engines and we will get back to you very quickly. For those of you not familiar with Index Engines, we've been in business since 2004, so quite a while. Really the number of different use cases for our indexing technology around data management and migration, around data analysis, which includes our CyberSense capability, all the way down to data governance. So quite a range of use cases. A lot of what we're speaking about these days is our CyberSense analysis product because of the way the market is going and the way the challenges that customers are facing with cyber attacks. For those of you not familiar with CyberSense, in a nutshell, it's a product that scans backup data. So without having to rehydrate backup data, can scan backup data to check the integrity. It uses over 100 analytics that are indicative of a cyber attack, and I'll talk about what those are, including encryption and data corruption, file extension mismatch, things like that. And then it automates the process with machine learning to basically give a deterministic result whether the data is corrupted due to a cyber attack. If there is corruption due to a cyber attack, CyberSense provides a number of forensic reporting capabilities to diagnose and recover. The unique architecture is that CyberSense supports obviously indexing backup images, data inside backup data, but also it's very high speed. We see customers with CyberSense that are processing a few terabytes of data, and then customers processing petabytes of data. So the speed and scale are critical to the architecture of the solution. And in terms of our go-to-market, we are integrated with the Dell EMC Cyber Recovery product, which is also being resold by other vendors like IBM Resiliency Services, other global system integrators like Unisys, DXC, and others. And we have a lot of support programs for Dell reseller channels, so it's a very channel-friendly product. As I mentioned, one of the unique claim to fame for CyberSense is the ability to directly index backup images. So the beauty of that is that CyberSense can scan and check the integrity of the data in the backup image. So customers and partners sometimes get confused thinking it's checking the integrity of the backup image. It's really checking the data inside the backup image, a unique capability without having to rehydrate it. So those are the major vendors that we support. There's a support matrix that I'll put up a link to at the end of the session that goes into the details of these types of backups, whether they be virtual backups or backups of databases and so on. It really matters. So this is what we support today. Again, I'll provide a link for the details of the supported environments. So with the Cyber Recovery Vault, as we know, that isolates and protects your critical data assets. What CyberSense does is adds value on top of the vault, really three levels of value. The first level is the baseline scan. CyberSense considers every time data is replicated to the vault as an observation. So on observation 1, which is the baseline, CyberSense has nothing to compare the data to. So it's really looking at the data for the first time. So with that first view, there is value in what CyberSense provides. We feel it's 95% level of confidence in finding data corruption. So it's going to find the obvious types of data corruption, including known malware extensions, and so on. But what CyberSense does as it has additional observations, it sees how data changes over time. So that's a critical component of CyberSense, is looking at the point in time observations of the data. So as it sees how data changes, so it looks at a Word document on Tuesday, compares it to how it changes on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, then on Friday. Does it become encrypted? Does it become very large or very small? Does the file extension change? So that ongoing monitoring brings the level of confidence up to 99.5% in finding data corruption. And then finally, if there is an attack, CyberSense will provide a number of forensic reporting tools to be able to diagnose and recover, to understand the who, what, where, and when of what happened. And I'll talk more about each of these. The workflow is very straightforward. What customers really like is the integration with the Dell Cyber Recovery Vault. It's kind of a set it and forget it environment. All the reporting and the setup and the configuration and the results are all integrated with the Cyber Recovery Vault. So the scans occur, and the scans occur after replication is done into the vault and retention lock is applied. So the data becomes immutable. The scans occur and it's an automatic process through the Dell Cyber Recovery dashboard. Once the scans occur, there's over 100 analytics that are applied to the data that are indicative of a cyber attack. One that's interesting is entropy score. We have an entropy score from 0 to 99. Entropy uses a random disorder algorithm to look at when files become very disordered, which is really a signal that they've been encrypted. So when the entropy score goes to 99, that signifies encryption. So alone, that's not enough. So those analytics are looking inside the file for encryption. And if a user encrypted a file, that would send an entropy score to 99. So you don't want to get a false positive with that. But other analytics will look at file extension mismatch. So a common attack vector would be appending onto the file, a .loki or .encrypted extension. So if a Word document has an entropy score that increases to 99 and the file extension becomes mismatched to the true file type, that's an attack vector. So all these analytics, including data corruption, when files become very dissimilar, mass deletions and creations, entropy score, and so on, they're all fed to the machine learning algorithms. So all those pieces of evidence are fed to the machine learning that basically comes up with a deterministic, red light, green light, whether the data has been encrypted or not. Corrupted or not. So if it's no sign of corruption, if it's a green light type environment, that process repeats over and over. And the beauty of that with the Cyber Recovery Vault is that the customer has confidence that what's in the vault is clean and has integrity. So if and when they do get attacked, they can restore that data without having to build a clean room and check the integrity and check the quality of the data to see if it's good, see if it has been corrupted or not. They'll know with confidence that CyberSense has validated that data, checked the integrity, and it's good to go. So they can eliminate a significant process in a recovery process that customers need to go through without that don't use CyberSense. So that process will repeat. If there is a red light situation, there's a number of investigation tools to be able to report on the results and to diagnose exactly what's happening. So if there is an attack with CyberSense, you can know the who, what, where, and when of what's happened. So knowing when it's happened. So what we're seeing with cyber attacks these days is the dwell time is becoming very long. The cyber criminals are getting into the data center, looking around, understanding what's going on. They may execute some corruption early, but the minimal impact on the data. CyberSense can detect when they start doing minimal corruption, when they start doing some types of attacks. With some of the current attacks that are going on, I know with TrickBot, which is a common attack that's happening in the healthcare sector, the FBI alert that came out in October specifies specific files that the cyber criminal plants in the data center. So with CyberSense, you can actually search on those files to see if they exist. So you can proactively kind of prevent those types of attacks. So, but once CyberSense sends an alert, you will send a whole bunch of information out, forensic information, to figure out and investigate exactly what happened. Who was impacted, how much damage was done, was it a few files or was it tens of thousands of files? What types of files were impacted? That becomes important when these data breaches occur, and if you see an attack occurs and the types of files that were attacked were all sensitive patient records or sensitive documents. You'll know that in advance. Where's the source of the file? What user account is being used? I'll talk about how we can help uncover that. And when did it happen? And most importantly, where's the last good backup sets? So the idea is if you have the last good backup sets, with CyberSense, you'll know how to minimize downtime by recovering those backup sets very quickly. So the workflow is pretty straightforward. As I mentioned earlier, CyberSense does a comprehensive index of the data, looks at how it changes over time, applies all these analytics. Over 100 analytics are applied that are indicative of a cyber attack. And then the machine learning is fed with these analytics that's been trained, and the machine learning has been trained on thousands of Trojans and over 20 attack vectors to basically take the analytics and send out an alert saying, hey, it looks like the corruption that's occurring is indicative of an attack. If they see an attack occurring, the attack vector will be defined. So CyberSense will say, this is the type of attack vector that's being executed on your environment. You'll get a full listing of the corrupt files. That becomes useful to understand the depth and the breadth and the location and the types of data that's being corrupted. Again, if it's 5 files, not as much of a concern. If it's 50,000 or 500,000 files, a big concern here. You can also process the event logs with CyberSense. Customers sometimes put them in the vaults. A lot of times they don't because they're very large and they're very dynamic. But with the listing of the corrupt files, the full file name and path, or if you process the event logs, you can use an event log report that's built in CyberSense to be able to understand the breached user account. So the user account that's being used to execute the data corruption. So again, if there's 50,000 files that were encrypted, for example, you could report on CyberSense, say what user touched these files last. That's the breached user account. And then you can also report on what executable that was used to corrupt those 50,000 files. That would be your ransomware. So we don't really say CyberSense is defined to find the ransomware, but it finds all the data corruption and evidence due to ransomware attack and can point back to the executable that actually did that corruption. So it can help you find the ransomware. And then finally, the most important point is that CyberSense will give you a full listing of the last good files and what backup sets they exist in. So that's your recovery plan that accelerates the recovery. You don't need to restore these backups in a clean room. You can confidently put them in the primary storage environment and restore them over the corrupted files and avoid business downtime. So, why now? Why now is CyberSense important? Why now is cyber recovery important? If you talked to us over a year ago, the attacks were very simplistic. They were just basically doing, getting in the data center and randomly corrupting data. Now what we're seeing is the attacks are much more sophisticated. They're getting in the data center in very sophisticated ways, hiding in virtual images, hiding in cache copies of files, being very advanced in how they attack the data. We're seeing the cyber criminals using machine learning and artificial intelligence to get in. They're also seeing what software is being used inside the data center so they can maximize their impact, whether the customer is using Commvault or whether the customer is using NetBackup, which allows them to know the vulnerabilities of those environments to be able to attack them more effectively. They're also exposing sensitive data on the web. So when they get in there, part of what they're doing in their dwell time is to find what's the most sensitive content here. Is it patient records? Is it sensitive content? Contracts? Is it intellectual property? So finding that sensitive content, and once they locate it, they're extracting it from the data center so they can publish it out on the web. So getting in there and stopping these attacks as early as possible, and then understanding what they've corrupted and what they've touched is critical to help minimizing the impact of this sensitive data breach and the public exposure that it results in. We're also seeing cyber attacks, cyber as a service out there. So the idea that anybody that doesn't have technical expertise, whether it be an ex-employee, a student, a patient, a customer, they can call these 800 numbers and execute a cyber attack as a service. So the fact that cyber attacks, the volume of them are increasing significantly is a key issue. So why now? There's a lot of reasons why. And the customers, we've actually seen customers that we're dealing with that wanted to go into a long and drawn out proof of concept process that it really accelerated once either a partner or they got attacked and accelerated to a purchase. And we've seen purchases that have happened in 60 or 30 days, which is very unusual for this type of sale. I mentioned the FBI alert earlier. That's interesting. That came out in October, actually October 28th. So the FBI does issue alerts periodically on really serious types of attacks that are focused on different industries. If you read the news and follow the news, you'll see that healthcare and the public health sector is being attacked aggressively by cyber criminals. This FBI alert, if you haven't downloaded it, it's available on the web. You can also ask us and we'll send it to you. But it's very interesting. It kind of talks about what they're doing. It's a trick bot ransomware. They're inserting certain files into the data center, into the data environment. Those are easy for CyberSense to search for. So if you do have healthcare customers, by scanning their backup images, you can execute a search on those backup images for these specific files and find them. And if you find them, you can delete them off the primary storage environment and really avoid or interrupt any kind of attack that's about to happen at your customer. So, it's interesting that they're attacking healthcare. Healthcare, obviously, they have less robust security measures in place, especially with COVID going on. They are under, stress and strain. And so the cyber criminals see it as a good target. They also pay, they don't really have time to negotiate, so they'll pay. And cyber criminals know that they're easy targets, quick payers, and easy to attack. So the attacks are happening every day, and we see a lot of opportunity in the healthcare space. So as I mentioned, our Dell partnership, it's been very strong and very successful for us, and CyberSense has been very well received at Dell customers. Some of the interesting data points that you can see here is the types of customers. So, government is really about 25% of what we're doing within the CyberSense sales opportunities out there. And a lot of this is regional, local governments that, not large deployments per se. A lot in education over the past 6 to 9 months. Education, small school systems have been attacked. So we've done a lot of education deals and sales in Louisiana and Texas and those types of environments that have been attacked relentlessly. Financial, as you can imagine. Obviously, those are much larger deals. And you see it split among healthcare, entertainment, manufacturing, energy, technology. Healthcare is small. This is the closed deals. If you looked at our pipeline in opportunities, healthcare is probably the strongest right now. So that's changing dramatically. And it's going to probably grow larger than the other spaces. So if you're selling into these spaces, you can see where the success has been. A lot of our partners, think this is an expensive solution and only for large organizations. If you look at the front end terabyte chart, so the CyberSense is sold based on the front end terabyte capacity coming into the vault. You can see it breaks down pretty evenly. So a quarter of the deals are 5 to 25 front-end terabytes coming into the vault. Another quarter is 26 to 50 front-end terabytes. That alone, or half the deals, are really in the in the commercial space, in the small medium business space. A lot of those 5 terabytes in the vault could be a school system. We see customers that are putting in these isolated recovery vaults, the CyberSense and Cyber Recovery, that are putting out 25 to 30K to deploy this, and that gives them peace of mind. And a lot of these organizations are using funding from insurance companies to pay for this. We see some healthcare organizations that are using money from the CARES Act that was government funded through COVID, which does cover ransomware attacks, curiously enough. So we've seen state government apply that as well. So you can see in terms of front-end terabytes, half of the opportunities are really commercial lower end accounts. The others get 100 to 250 terabytes. This space here, this just gets very large. So we do have customers that are in the petabyte range. So when you go beyond 250 front-end terabytes and get into petabytes, that's typically multiple vaults, multiple geographic locations. So this gives you a sense of the profile of the customer. The thing that makes me very happy is that you can be a local school system in Texas, with a couple of terabytes that you're protecting, and you could be a large global financial services institution, and you're using the same technology with the same automation, with the same artificial intelligence and analytics to protect your data. So it's the same product across a wide spectrum of vertical markets and wide spectrum of customers, regardless of size. This is another chart from Dell. I'm sure it's available through your Dell relationships. It is publicly presentable to customers. Dell Legal has approved this, and you see a bunch of caveats down on the bottom that they've provided. But in this space, there's a lot of false information that's being applied out there. There's a lot of just confusion in the market. So this slide is one that Dell put together to really talk to customers about different scenarios and compare it to what the other vendors, including Rubrik, Cohesity, Veritas, Veeam and Commvault are providing. They all provide some level of capabilities. So what Dell has done is kind of divide this between good, better, and best. You'll see on the vertical axis there. So a lot of these vendors just talk about immutability, which is common. So, it's good making your backups immutable and locking them down so they can't be changed is good. But if the data inside it is corrupt and you're locking it and making it mutable, you're protecting bad data, and it's not going to help you in a recovery process. And it doesn't give you the integrity checking of the content that you would need to really streamline the recovery. What they talk about in the better space is, being able to lock it down with access credentials and be able to support multiple backup software and so on, backup software of your choice. Obviously Dell is the one that does all these things because they made the chart. But on the best scenario, they talk about, obviously air gapping the data, providing full content indexing and analytics, which is CyberSense, and checking the integrity of the data to accelerate the recovery process. So these two components are only available within a Dell environment. So I think that's really the differentiation here. And if you look at any of these vendors' website, they'll say, sure, we support ransomware. But when you dig deep and go, scratch the surface and look at what they do, you can really see the Dell solution with cyber recovery with CyberSense is really the state-of-the-art capability that's going to provide you the last line of defense that checks your backups. So a good chart to present that gives customers kind of a differentiation against what all the other vendors are talking about. We do have a case study, and if you contact us, we can send you this. It's a one-pager, pretty clean, but this talks about a customer. It's a utility customer. They're processing 46 terabytes of data into their vault. They're backing up data with Avamar. I wanted to show this to you because I want to give you an idea of the type of data that they're protecting. They're protecting core infrastructure because that's one of the obviously, if your network infrastructure like Active Directory and so on get corrupted, you're in big trouble. So protecting the core infrastructure is commonly populated into the vault. But they're also protecting business data, key documents and agreements and so on, and databases, some of the DB2 and SQL databases that really are running business critical applications. So it's a wide spectrum of content. And this does become a sales challenge when you talk to customers about protecting data and putting data in the vault. The question is, what data should I put in the vault? So they need to work and define what data is mission critical that if they get shut down would allow them to rebuild their business. And there is some best practices that Dell provides actually by industry on that. So what a lot of questions is like, why should I build a vault and all this hardware, data domain, and servers sitting there, and they're sitting there idle all day? They're processing 5 analysis policies that run in parallel to get through this data every day. CyberSense looks inside every file and every database that comes into the vault every day. There's 62 virtual backup clients that are processed daily, and 3 native databases that are processed daily. So for this customer, there's about 15 to 20 hours a day of analysis. So that vault is running 15 to 20 hours after replication occurs to analyze the data, look inside every file. So it's not sitting idle. It's actually checking the integrity of the content and working hard to make sure that the data is clean and can be recovered. So it's not hardware that's sitting idle and not being used. It's being used very, very aggressively. We have a new announcement, a new release with CyberSense 7.5. Some of these features have been incorporated within the Dell Cyber Recovery solution. Some are not quite yet there. I'll go through these pretty quickly since we're running close to our time here. But one of the big areas we're seeing is that customers are putting a lot of virtual machine backups into the vault. So we added capability to do parallel streams and parallel processing on these VM backups to be able to process them much quicker. We've improved the performance and the speed of processing, especially of virtual machines, VMs, significantly. So when customers are putting in, hundreds of petabytes into a vault, we can process through with single server type environments. If it's more than 100 terabytes, it's usually multiple servers that run in parallel, but you can create analytics jobs that get it through all this stuff on a daily basis. We added new workload support. So CyberSense supports analytics in DB2, SQL, SharePoint, Oracle have done that for a while. We added support for the SAP HANA database and the JetBlue database as well. which is the foundation of Microsoft Exchange. So adding new database support for checking integrity. And then we also support cloud sorry, I'm chopping on my words, to be able to push the analytics out to the cloud so that the analytics could be aggregated across different customer sets, and the machine learning can learn across multiple analytics environments to really become much more improved and much smarter. That's something that hasn't been deployed in the Cyber Recovery Vault scenario yet, but we look forward to doing that down the road. So in terms of partner resources, as we're getting close to the end of the half hour, there's a number of different things that we can provide. We do have a CyberSense sales kit that's on the website. If you go to indexengines.com/Dell partner, that kit is available for download, includes white papers, includes data sheets, includes overcoming objections, a bunch of really good information that would help you really get started with CyberSense. Some of the collateral is for your internal use. Some of it is for customer facing or to present out to customers. We have also a number of important things like the sizing calculator that's available. We don't make that available publicly. We can work with you on that, which is basically, could you help us size out the number of servers we would need for a vault? Typically, if you're in the tens of terabytes, it's going to be one server, but we just want to validate that, and we can make sure that the analytics can run in a meaningful time period between replications. If you're having, closer to 100 terabytes or larger, then we really need to kind of size this out for you and work with you on doing that. The support matrix is important as well. We're uploading that. I think it was refreshed today, or it's going to be refreshed today. But if you look at indexengines.com/CS for CyberSense, that is your go-to place to find out what backup environments, what backup agents, what backup data is supported today. And that's all you definitely need to go there to make sure that those environments are supported. PowerProtect is, Dell EMC has a PowerProtect data manager that's in process. We expect that to be supported in the early part of next year, in 2021. Other backup software like Veeam, Cohesity, and Rubrix, we do not support today. We get requests for that. Haven't built a business case to do that yet, but who knows? And then training, we can provide training out to partners. It really depends on partners' commitment and how aggressively you're going to go after CyberSense business. It's kind of a business conversation that we'd like to have with you on that. And then joint sales calls. If you're going out to market and need help in pitching CyberSense, we have obviously a lot of experience on CyberSense and how to pitch it out there in the field. So we can help you with that. I don't really have much time for questions. If you do have questions, my email address is there. As I mentioned, you can send an email to info@indexengines.com. That will get it to the right people. But Rob McAlpine is our partner manager. His information is there. Many of you may know him already. If you don't, send him an email and introduce yourself. But he is the go-to person to provide you all the material and support that you would need. You can also contact myself, Jim, again, down there. My email address is there, or send an email to info. A few of the questions we're getting are based on how is pricing. Pricing is through Dell. You can purchase this through the Dell ordering system. It's there today. If you're a Dell reseller, as I imagine you all are, you can buy this today and order it today. It's based on front-end terabytes coming into the vault, and it's based on subscriptions or terms, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year terms. It is, on the low end, it's affordable. On the high end, once you get into hundreds of terabytes or petabytes, we've been doing special deals to be able to make sure those deals happen, and so on. So reach out to Rob or myself, and happy to talk to you more about that and help you with your sales opportunities. I'm at the end of the half hour, so I promise to keep it tight here. And if you do have questions, again, reach out to us, and we'd be happy to work with you. Again, thanks for your time, and look forward to speaking with you.